Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about Darktide. So these are the 4 classes you can pick from. The 2 I would recommend for new players is if you like first-person shooters and you want to play more of a range style character, the Veteran is fantastic for that. The big thing I really like about the class for new players is Volley Fire because it highlights special targets. So it makes it really easy for you to see the targets that are most crucial for your team to take out, and you get extra headshot damage. So if you're decent at FPSs and you want to play a range style character, great option. They have access to a bunch of really cool weapons. Would recommend it. But if you want to kind of get into more of the melee side of the game, or if you just want to kind of improve as a player in the melee style as a whole, you should probably play Ogryn. You get the most health. It's really easy to play, and it's very forgiving because you have 300 health opposed to 150 with the Veteran, and you get access to thick skin, so you have 20% damage reduction. So it's really easy to use. I'm gonna hop into my Ogryn in the testing area to kind of show you some of the abilities and the mechanics of the game. Okay, the first thing is there's 3 different difficulties to this game. Now, for a brand new player, Sedition is the easiest one. Maybe your first like 2 or 3 missions, just play this and so you get a feel for the game. Once you kind of understand what's going on, Uprising is still easier than normal, and you can play Uprising for quite a while. I wouldn't recommend going to Malice until you're at least level 5, and the reason why is because at level 5 is when you get your main defensive feat. So you get these at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and your first row is always your defensive one of how you build toughness. Toughness acts as kind of a shield in this game. So Ogryns are melee focused, right? So whenever you do a heavy attack on a single target, you get 20, or you can do it when you hit multiple people with a heavy attack, you get 20 shield back. Both are fantastic. The last one just is a buff for everybody. If you're playing with a structured group, maybe pick this, but for playing with randoms, definitely want to go with either Smash 'em Good or Best Form of Defense. I like Smash 'em Good because I can always just choose to hit one person instead of 2. I can't always guarantee there's going to be more than 2. This is just a little training area. So you can left click once and you'll do a regular attack, or you can hold and you do a heavy attack. So Ogryn's big things are heavy attacks. You have an additional stagger, so you're more likely to knock down enemies if you don't kill them. So let's go to these guys because they have a little bit more health. So I'm knocking these guys down easily, even though I didn't kill them. So they can't attack me, obviously, while they're knocked down. That's another way you have an additional form of toughness. Now the Ogryn at 10th level get access to the shield. The shield's great because if you're taking fire from these ranged people, instead of taking damage, you'll just lose some stamina. And then you can do this until you can get into an area where you have a direct line on them, and then you can just press F, which pushes you forward, knocking everyone down. Closing distance also increases your movement speed right afterwards. So you'll have that little extra speed boost if you don't quite make it to whatever target you're trying to get to. Now, Ogryn also has access to some fantastic ranged options. They're not very accurate typically, but they are great for laying down either suppressive fire with a handgun, or you can hit targets and stagger enemies using a grenade launcher. You can even do a rocket punch. Now, melee is your bread and butter though. So for melee weapons, I really like the club and shield just because of the defensive purposes of it. Additionally, if you don't want to lose stamina while being shot at, because maybe this, you're getting shot by a gunner, they have a lot of fire, maybe one of the big boys, the Unyieldings, or you're tanking a demon host, which is the Left 4 Dead witch equivalent in this game, you can hit your special ability. And now I can't move, but I also can't take any damage. So I'm just here, I'm tanking a bunch. While that's happening, my teammates can take out whatever is shooting at me, and I'm good to go. Now you may be thinking, okay, so great, you have this great suppressive stuff. You can do quite a lot of damage to a single target or knock them down, stopping them from hitting you. That's all great. But what about for these big boys? How are you going to deal with them? Well, you have grenades for that. So the Ogryn grenade, instead of being like a frag grenade or a stun grenade like the other classes get, they get a box that you chuck at their head, and it does insane damage. If you hit someone in their weak spot, you're going to be able to kill almost anything in the game, with the exception of like the demon hosts or the monstrosities, the really big like boss enemies that have health bars at the top of the screen. Those are the only things you're not going to be able to one shot with it. But you're going to do a ton of damage to basically anything that doesn't have really heavy armor. You only need to really worry about the non-melee units that are big, because these big guys, right, this big crusher, I'm just bullying him. I'm just pushing him around, knocking him out of his attacks. He's on the ground, he can't hit me, and if for some reason, you know, they're about to get an attack off, I can always just press F and knock them down that way too. So you have a great way of kind of stun locking the big enemies and stopping them from hitting you. And if they're about to hit you and there's, you know, for whatever reason, there's nothing you can do about it, maybe your F isn't up, maybe you can't dodge because you're surrounded, you can always just right click. And yeah, you can lose a bunch of stamina, but rather than losing health, if you have enough time, you could press your special and now your attacks do nothing. So you're super tanky. You have a lot of options to deal with a lot of different enemies. All around, an incredibly strong class for new players. So I would really recommend Ogryn. Now, to warn you, when you first start off, you won't have access to the grenade launcher or the machine gun. You'll start with a little shotgun, which isn't very good in my opinion. It's great for clearing massive hordes of enemies, but it's not so good for dealing with single target. But you'll get the grenade launcher pretty early on in the game. But just to show you what you'll start off with, this is the loadout you start out with. It's a single shot shotgun, which again does a ton of damage. Can clear hordes of enemies really easily. I mean, I should kill that guy and all these guys with it. You know, you can clear very well, and you either start with a knife or a club like this. And even though these are the starting weapons, you know, they're still got a great attack patterns. It still can do a lot of work. Obviously, you don't have a shield, so while you can block melee attacks with this, you won't be able to stop gunners. So if I'm taking ranged fire, this will not stop them like it does with the shield, but I can still block, say, like these big boys attacks, things like that. But once you get to like, I think it's like level 2 or 3, you'll get access to this fully automatic shotgun, the Ripper gun. This is a lot of fun to use. You can just, it's a little burst gun, or you can hold down right trigger and just unload shotgun fire. It's a lot of fun. You won't get the shield to level 10, unfortunately. And that's kind of like the big ability, in my opinion, for the Ogryn, is being able to block range attacks as well. But using things like the slides, you can try to dodge fire, although being such a large target, it doesn't always work out. Things like dodge, so you can dodge when you're about to be shot and hope that you can manage to get away. But obviously, if you're surrounded by enemies, you're not going to be able to dodge as well because you're going to flip into them. Do I have a... Now these guys are close enough together. So if I try to dodge and there's enemies to the right, obviously I can't. But if that's the case, of course, you can always just press F and get them all either way. So I'm stuck. I can't move. I'm fully surrounded. Press F. Then they don't die. They just knock down. They're staggered. So great for making space, giving you time. You can always just use your melee hits to fling people around. If you don't kill them, you're at least going to fling them around so that they can't hit you. That guy didn't die, but I knocked the guy and I finish him off. All in all, great class. Okay, the last thing I wanted to show you guys before signing off is the ability I talked about earlier. So as you can see, these enemies are highlighted, making them very visible. The game is very dark when you're outside the training area, so being able to see the enemies very easily using your ability, it's great. There's often audio cues to let you know that they're coming, so you know when to activate your ability. You can pick off the gunners or the other key enemies that are going to make it really difficult for your frontliners. While your Ogryn's wading through the tons and tons of poxwalkers, being able to pick off the gunners, the ranged units, things like that is incredibly helpful. Obviously, this is the starting weapon. This guy's only level 2, but the las rifle's fantastic. You'll be able to kill most enemies with a 1-shot headshot or 2-shot headshot, depending on if you have your ability activated.
Eliminating alpha target!
Now, if you get stuck, you always have grenades to help you deal with poxwalkers. It doesn't kill them, it'll knock them around. It wasn't a great throw by me.
Here she goes!
But great horde clear there. And then, just like any other one, you have your melee weapon if it really comes to it. But ideally, you wouldn't be in melee as the veteran until you're high enough level to have something like a power sword. I would just kind of stay back, try to pick off the kind of the key target, the ranged units when you're first starting out, until you feel very confident in melee. If you've played Ogren already and you feel pretty confident you're dodging, you're blocking, you're shoving, things like that, then of course go ahead. But you're going to have to be much better at kind of core melee abilities before you want to really dive into veteran. Simply because you have to be a lot more careful. You know, unlike the Ogren, you don't get extra toughness for just hitting someone with a charged attack. You do get a little bit of toughness for killing an enemy in melee, always, but your things are like killing elites, killing people with headshots with your gun, or being far away from enemies. And obviously being a melee doesn't really accomplish any of those. So just, you know, be aware of that. Don't get me wrong, the veteran is probably the best ranged dealer in the game. Priority of target ability is fantastic for dealing with most enemies. This weapon isn't very good at dealing with armor. That's not on the veteran, that's just because I don't have very good weapons yet. Once you get things like the plasma rifle just shreds things. It's great single target damage. The bolter absolutely shreds enemies. When I'm playing Ogren and I'm doing the slab shield special, so I can't take damage from like a demon host, if I have a bolter on my team, they just press their little button, they pull out their bolter, and they absolutely shred the demon host. I think they killed it in 2 to 3 clips. Obviously other people were attacking it as well, but the health bar just disintegrates with the veteran. They're really good all around. If you want to play a ranged style character, Ogrens are better for if you want to learn melee mechanics, or if you just want to have an easier time playing the game, Ogrens is great for that as well. Thank you for watching. If you have been playing Darktide, let me know what your favorite class is down below and why. And if you haven't played Darktide, what class would you like to see added to the game? Obviously, being a big AdMech fan, I like to see some Skitarii or something like that being added to the game. I doubt it'll happen. There is a Tech Priest NPC though, so you gotta look forward to that. All you AdMech fans who play the game, quick heads up before you buy it. It is pretty intensive. I'm playing the game on the lowest settings here, and I think it looks pretty good. But I have a mid to lower end PC, and the game does crash frequently still. I probably had 10 to 15 crashes in my 30 hours of playtime, and it can be really frustrating when that happens at the end of a session. So maybe you're right about to finish a 20 to 30 minute mission and it crashes. That can be really annoying. I've had it crash before on me on literally the screen that says escape. So I was probably maybe like a minute away from finishing the mission, and I lost all that XP and currency for that, which was rather annoying. But now that you're aware of, you know, the negatives of the game, characters will share currency as well, like they do in Vermintide. Just a heads up, some of the negatives, or, you know, you buy. But the game still seems like something you're interested. You have a computer that you can run it. You have a desire to play kind of a horde style game where you just get of Poxwalkers, using some really cool Imperium of Man units. Give it a try.